Hi everybody, it's Maya Zahira with Psychic Protection Sanctuary, and I started about 4 minutes late. Sorry about that. Some of you are like, where are you? I'm here now. So sometimes sometimes it just takes a while with technical issues. So let's get started. This is our monthly free Facebook Live class in our Facebook group, Psychic Protection Sanctuary. So this is a monthly occurrence that we have in here. Hey, Joe, good to see you. Or I should say Joe, right, in quotes. So as people are joining, I just want to give a shout out to most of you who are watching this part are watching the replay. So a shout out to you. I appreciate you. Many of you watching this are on YouTube, and I want to just say thank you for being a subscriber. And this is a Facebook Live. This is not an edited, slick video. This is casual, us talking about an issue during a Facebook Live. I'm going to be looking at my notes, probably going to ramble a little bit, and the other thing about being on a Facebook Live is this is our opportunity to establish relationships with each other and just chat for a little bit. So I wanted to acknowledge those of you on YouTube. Hi. And just keep in context what this video is all about. This is not a fancy video, but as always, I always pack these videos full of information. So sit back and relax and listen. And take it all in. So we have plenty of people already here live. I guess since I was a couple minutes late, y'all were like waiting for me. So you joined right away. That's awesome. So happy to see you guys. So let's chat. Let's just chat for a second. Actually, before we do that, today's topic, I want to give you a little teaser. Today's topic is on addiction and entity issues, how they are related. So the chit chat is, I'd like for you to let me know where you're joining from. So go ahead and type, let me know where you're joining from. And then I'll do some shout outs. And if you're watching the replay on YouTube, give us a shout out and tell us where you're joining from as well, because I love reading your comments. So I just got back late last night. I was at a psychic fair. Right now we're kind of limited as to how many events are happening with COVID going on. So I'm not doing a lot of traveling, kind of staying around the Arizona circuit. But it was a long day, so long. Oh my gosh. So I will give you fair warning. I'm pretty tired today. I'm really grateful I didn't have any one-on-one sessions scheduled. I was smart enough to make sure that I scheduled accordingly. So if I seem a little down, that's why. But I think I'm thinking clearly enough, and I've got my notes here with me. And I mean, I'm an advocate for, even if you're tired, you still go ahead and do the thing. It's better than not doing it at all. And this is an important topic for us to cover. So let's do shout outs. I want to just say hi to everybody. Tell us where you're joining from. And I'm joining from Tucson, Arizona. And I moved here over a year ago after living in Kansas City area and surrounding area for over 30 years. So I'm loving the sunshine. Joe is joining from Mazatlan, Mexico. Nina from Sweden. That's very cool. And Ming from the USA. Okay, so our topic for today, addiction and entity issues. And I'm going to throw in a bit of discussion at the end about sacred ceremony and ayahuasca. So if you are like whichever area that you're interested in, I probably could have made two different videos about all of this, but I'm going to stick it all together into one. So if that piques your interest, then stick around. Before we get into our topic, want to just give you my quick blurb so that you have it. So if you are new to me, I want you to grab a pen and paper and write this down. If you would like more free resources and paid resources, both, then I invite you to visit my website, which is psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. And there's also, and that's where you can click on Work with Maya if you want to see the different ways that you can work with me nowadays. There are a variety of ways. And there's also a free Facebook group, which is Psychic Protection Sanctuary Facebook group, which those of you who are watching live, that is where we are at. And there's my book, which is Darkness Disguised as Light, The Hidden Truth about Psychic Protection and the Illusion Matrix. And that you can get on Amazon for under $20. And it's really important to me to have a lot of options for you guys. Many things that are free out there. And then there are also some paid options too, because, this is how I pay my heating bill and my rent and stuff. So, because I do it full time and I don't have like, what's it called? One of those people that just like pays for everything for you. So this is how I support myself. So there are some offerings that are paid. But I'm a huge believer that I want everybody who needs help to receive it. So that's why I have so much free stuff. So if you haven't checked out the YouTube channel yet, if you're not on there, then I invite you to do that on youtube.com Psychic Protection Sanctuary. Okay, there's like over 100 hours of free stuff on there. Okay, let's get into our topic, addiction and entity issues. Most of my focus is going to be on substance abuse, alcohol and drugs, but everything that I'm saying really applies to just any kind of addiction. Just fill in the blank, right? It's all gonna apply. Before we jump into our topic, I want to be super, super clear that this is a judgment-free zone. I am not here in any way whatsoever to like cast judgment on anyone who's currently using, or who's currently in the midst of addiction. That's not what this is about at all. So this is a judgment-free zone, and I think everybody who's attracted to come and watch this video is also not coming from judgment. I get that sense as well. You all are people who really want to know what's what about the connection between addiction and entity issues. Also putting out a huge amount of respect and acknowledgement and compassion and understanding for those out there who are using substances for medicinal purposes. And just FYI, to give you some context about where I'm coming from, I actually believe I'm pro legalization of pretty much everything. I think probably everything. I'm pro legalization of everything because I believe in personal freedom. I believe in the right to choose what you want to do or not do, or what you want to use or not use for your body. So, and then back to the medicinal purposes, a little more context. I live with a pain disorder as well as a lot of other cascade of things, health issues. Marijuana doesn't happen to work. It doesn't happen to work well for me. And there are also spiritual reasons why I feel that I cannot use it, why it's not an option for me. But that said, and even though it really wasn't helpful to me as far as pain, I understand that all of our bodies are different. And that for some people, it's a difference between having so much pain or anxiety, whichever, and then using cannabis, and having a great deal of relief. So I know there's a lot of people out there, including some people in my family with similar health issues to me. So I just want to really emphasize, like, no judgment. I would be very sad if you went away from this video thinking that there was any of that. Now, all of that being said, I do think it's important to have an understanding about how different substances affect your energy field. My neighbors are talking really loud, like right over there. I'm like, what is that sound? I am still living in a temporary place, even though I moved here over a year ago. I think I'm going to be here for a little while longer because just COVID and everything's unstable. It's not a good time to move. So I don't think you guys can hear that. And April says hello. Hello, April. Yeah. So, okay. So as I mentioned, even though, for health reasons, maybe I could benefit from using certain substances, I personally choose not to. Not only does it not agree with me, it's just not a match anyway. So this is kind of a moot point anyway. But I actually won't touch any drugs or alcohol. Well, actually, I mean, if my body wasn't so sensitive, if I didn't have kidney issues, I would enjoy drinking a glass of wine, but that's just one glass of wine. That's in moderation. And I'm going to talk about alcohol and amounts in a little bit. But as far as using, or even using substances to expand spiritually, like some people have a belief they say that they've had an experience where they've used certain drugs or substances to expand to, quote, higher realms. I still won't touch any of that stuff, and here's why. So I have a little list of 4 things here. Number 1, I'm going to use the word substances sometimes, just as a catch-all phrase, so I hope you understand. Okay, so the substance, alcohol, drugs, etc., creates tears, holes, damaged areas to the aura. There are lots and lots of clairvoyants, people who can see energy like myself, who can vouch for this, that we can see that people who have been using substances, their aura and their energy field, all aspects of their energy field look different than if they weren't using. And there's also a cumulative effect. So if someone is not just using once, but using over a period of time and also experiencing an addiction with it, then it does have a cumulative effect of weakening and distorting and or creating tears, holes, damaged areas in the energy field, in various areas of the energy field. Now, what happens when there's damaged areas in the energy field? Any practice that creates damage in the energy field, whether it's substance abuse or any kind of addiction, or whether it's like a major car accident that causes damage to the physical body and the energy field. Like, it doesn't matter. Anything that causes damage to the energy field is going to open things up and make it easier for entities to enter that person's field. Now, to be clear, the damage that's going to occur if someone has had a car accident, the damage to their energy field is going to look different to a clairvoyant like myself. It's going to look different, and it's going to be different compared to like long-term drug addiction or alcoholism is going to look like. Okay, so it's different, but the similarity is that there's damage to the energy field. So anything that's going to make your energy field more vulnerable is going to make it easier for negative energies to come in, entities, any kind of entities, evil spirits, demonic beings, and etc. We'll just leave it at that. We're not going to go into a big list. But essentially, energies that you don't want to be there are entering into your space. It's like if you left all the doors and windows open of your apartment or your house, and then after a while there's, you know, unsavory people maybe that come in, start to steal stuff, or start to mess up, start to you know, trash your place, whatever. And it's the same thing with your aura. Okay. So the entity issues can be any level of extreme. So it could be an entity just coming in and kind of being out in your outer energy field out here, or if your energy field is really, really weak, depending on maybe any other past traumas that you've had that have created even more energetic weakness, then an entity or entities can even enter all the way into a person's physical body. But most often what I will see clairvoyantly is a whole crew of hitchhikers, like a whole bunch of entities out in the person's energy field, connected via energy cords. And then occasionally one or more of them will, like, they'll take turns entering into the person's body when they're using. So I hope that's not too freaky sounding. You know, or maybe I do hope that it's freaky sounding, that it's scary, that maybe people will take it seriously. Because this is not something to take lightly. So that's the number one reason why I won't even dabble with anything anymore. Not to mention the fact that I work with clients and students, and so I'm 100% responsible for the energy that I bring to my clients. And so, like, because of that, even if cannabis did agree with me, I would feel that ethically I can't use it, because I can't engage in any activity that's going to welcome in entity attachments. Because if I'm someone that's helping free people from entity attachments, and then I have attachments of my own because I've been engaging in things that I know cause that, that's unethical and just not smart. So that is why I won't touch the stuff at all. And I will admit I'm pretty opinionated about when I see spiritual healers and practitioners that are doing their work while they're high on cannabis. I have a real problem with that, because I can see what's happening to the healer's energy field, and they are not in a space to be helping their client. But that's another side rant. So that's number one reason why I won't touch any of this stuff, is because it creates damage in your energy field. Number two, when someone, hi Sierra, hey, when someone is drunk or high or engaging in some kind of addictive behavior, and I really feel like this is the most true with being drunk or high, because it literally shifts your consciousness in a particular way. And when that happens, your spirit partially or fully leaves your body. Now, if someone is blackout drunk, then they actually do leave their body. They might be near their body, so their spirit lifts out and might be above their body or off to the side. It might not be like completely off in another universe, but it drifts out of the body partly because that's a very uncomfortable, when you are blackout drunk, that's a very uncomfortable space for your sacred spirit to be within. And so, and that's also true when there's traumatic events happening as well. Our spirit sometimes leaves our body because it's so traumatic. So the spirit leaves, and so when nobody's home, it leaves an open space for all sorts of things to enter in. One of the, it's interesting how there's so many TV shows like Ghost Hunters and stuff like that, where they are investigating haunted like bars and stuff, because bars are one of the places that are totally filled with entities, and most of those entities are human souls that have passed on, who had an addiction when they were alive. Again, no judgment. This just is what it is. We have compassion for the fact that that's happening, but they've decided, for whatever reason, they've been either still really attached to their addiction, or they're afraid to go on to the other side for whatever reason. And so they're hanging out at the bar, and they're waiting for someone to get drunk enough so they can step into the body and experience that through that person's body. Okay. So that's a very common thing that happens. And then oftentimes then that person who's gone and gotten drunk, or they've gone to a rave or a party and they've gotten high, it's this similar thing. There's a bunch of spirits there waiting. I know that sounds weird, but believe me, it is so weird to be able to see entities like I can. And it's so shocking. And it's like, if I tell people right in the moment, they're not going to want to believe me. Yeah, so that's what I see as a clairvoyant. And so then what happens then is, when the person starts to sober up, then their energy starts to kind of come, their spirit starts to come back in. Usually that inhabiting spirit that doesn't belong to them will either be pushed all the way out or partially out, or sometimes not. Sometimes it'll stay, and the person will be, it'll be a partial possession where the person is still there and in control. They're not like, it's not like the movie The Exorcist. They're still there, but then the other thing is still there. And so sometimes the person's behavior will suddenly change. Their voice will change, like in their regular daily life. It's because the person is there and something else is still there as well. So, but what I see that's even just as common is that the person will walk out of the party or the bar with a bunch of hitchhikers. So like I mentioned before, it's like, here's the person, their soul is present again because they've sobered up. Or maybe it's not even fully present, it's still kind of off to the side because they're not really an embodied person because they're dealing with all this addiction. And there's a whole bunch of spirit hitchhikers, again, usually human souls, but sometimes there are demonic entities and other entities attached as well, because they like to feed off of the energy of suffering. So that's why they would hook in. The human souls would want to hitchhike because they can then continue to re-experience those feelings of the addictive behavior. And then the demonic entities and other negative entities would attach because they're trying to encourage suffering, and they feed off of that energy. So, and I see we have a couple of questions, which I will get to in just a minute when I finish this list. Okay, let's see. Number 3. Okay, sorry, I couldn't remember what it was. Sorry about that. Okay, so number 3 thing that's important to remember And another reason why I don't use anything is because, and I don't know if you guys can hear my neighbors. Oh my God. You probably can't. You're like, what's she talking about? It's so loud. So if a person is an addict or a potential addict, then here's what happens. So if they're actively an addict or in recovery, or let's say they have addiction in their ancestry, so there's a tendency towards it, but they're not living out that addiction yet. Let's say they're growing up and they're a young adult at this point. They're not living out the addiction, but there's that potential there. So no matter what category the person is in, unfortunately, what happens is spirits who were addicted when they were alive, human souls who were addicted when they were alive, will seek out people like that. It's almost like there's like a beacon in the person's energy field, and they will attach to that person. And 9 times out of 10, well, most of the time that I see, it's not just one, it's usually many, will end up attaching to the person and will encourage the addictive behavior. And the reason why that they encourage the addictive behavior is so that they can experience the addiction through the person. So, this is actually why it's so hard to quit. And if you can imagine, and some of you are in recovery or you're active in your addiction, so you don't have to imagine, you know what I'm talking about, that when you are trying to be in recovery, how hard it is. And even it's almost as though there's voices in your head or these urges that feel like they're not even your own, trying to get you to engage in that behavior. And or there might even be people in your life, like actual people who are using, who are trying to encourage you to go ahead, right? And in both cases, that is entity influence. So when you're hearing the voices in your head, this is my opinion as a spiritual healer, when you're hearing the voices in your head and when you are feeling those really strong urges, it's not only physiological, because your body's chemicals are wanting that substance, right? Your body's chemicals are out of whack because you're used to having that substance, even though it's not good for you. But it's not only physiological, but it's spiritual, because there are these entities that are saying, do it, do it, do it, because that benefits them. And then there's secondary psychic attack that's happening. And that's the term that I've coined, meaning that there's people who are being influenced by the entities that are attached to them to try to push you into using again, to sell to you, or to say, oh, come on, let's just relax together, or whatever. Because it's a team effort. Like, all of these negative spirits work together. So it's extremely difficult in recovery to just, now again, in my personal opinion, in my professional opinion as a spiritual healer, and I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, and I'm not in the mental health field specializing in addiction. So, and I know you know that, but just being super clear, in my spiritual field, I believe that it's super hard to be in recovery without having some kind of spirit, without addressing the spiritual issues as well. So that's why it's so important to have some kind of spiritual work done, whether it's with a shaman, whether it's with a spiritual healer, whether it's with somebody like myself, to do a removal of all of the spirit attachments, and then to also heal and repair all of the layers of the energy field, and to help call your spirit back to you, so that you will be less vulnerable to those spiritual issues in the future. And then all you're dealing with is the addiction, which is plenty enough to deal with without all this spirit crew also trying to get you to use again. Okay? So that's my very strong belief. And also, you know, when I've chatted with people, when I've just had conversations with people about this subject, I have had so many people tell me that they have, when they have been in active addiction, whatever the addiction is, they've had many experiences where they've seen like a demon sitting next to them, or they've heard voices of spirits. There's so many people that I've talked with, clients, and just talking with random people about this subject. So many have told me stories about how one time they saw, you know, this thing with them at the bar, or you know, when they were trying to quit, they would hear a voice trying to get them to start again. So many countless stories about that. And again, then in my private practice as a spiritual healer, every single client that I've had who has been working with addiction or trying to be in recovery, every single one of them, so many, except for one ever, all of them except for one, has had tons of entity attachments. And I was so shocked when I found this one person who was in recovery, and she didn't have any entity attachments at all. And that's very, very rare. She had a very rare spiritual circumstance. Everybody else, I mean, I'm talking like, I don't know, 50 people. I've worked with a lot of clients, but probably only 50 to 75 who've been in recovery, who've been recovering from addiction. And all of them, except for that one, have had multiple entity attachments that we've then cleared so that they could have an easier pathway with their recovery process. So let's read comments. And okay, let me get a drink real quick. Okay, Nina says, in 2011, I suffered the worst demonic attack that started with a man that did drugs, ETS. Now, I don't know if that's autocorrect or a typo, or if I just don't know the terminology. So explain to me what that is. Okay. Because I'm not really in the loop of what the slang is. Or maybe that's just autocorrect. That did drugs, ETS, that lived in the apartment below me and my partner. He was up all night and was doing weird stuff and would disturb us. Because I worked from home, I had to be close to his energy field, and the attacks happened is something I will never forget. The whole area was dark. We moved, but I really had to heal and clear my energy for years after that. Yeah, so that's important to remember, that even if you are not oh, I'm so sorry. So I just laugh at myself sometimes. So it says DROGSETS. I couldn't figure out until just now that what that was saying was, and that's me being a goof. Like sometimes I don't see things that are right in front of me. Sorry about that. What she was saying was with a man that did drugs, etc. I am just such a goof, you guys. I'm so sorry. Oh God, it's making me turn red. Yeah, so thank you for being patient with me. Oh my God. I just crack myself up sometimes, you guys. So, okay. So, I'm really glad that you shared that, Nina, and I'm glad that you recovered from it. Still laughing at myself at being such a goof. And I'm also glad that you shared it because it brings up another important point, which is that, you know, even those who are around someone who's using can be affected by the entity activity and the negative energy activity that's happening, whether it's whether you're in a relationship with someone or you're a neighbor and you can't get away from it. So it affects everybody. Okay. April says, I don't hear them. So tell me more what you like. Fill that in a little bit more for me. April says, and thank you for the clarification, Nina. April says, so I have a question. I have had an inner feeling that I needed to quit smoking cigarettes. So would that apply as well? So it's my observation. And of course, I want you to tune into your inner guidance as well on this. Don't just take my word for it. But it's been my observation that the harder the drug, the more severe the entity issues. So something like cigarettes is like, that's going to be much milder entity, like spiritual issues, as compared to someone who's addicted to crack, or I don't know, fill in the blank with something that's more of a harder drug. But that said, April, the cigarettes and the smoke and the chemicals, it changes your energy field. There are lots of clairvoyants and people who have other psychic abilities that can discern if someone is a smoker, even if they're not physically present with them. So it's not like they can smell it on your clothing or something in a subtle way. But that if they tune into you, they can see or sense that literally the energy field is cloudy. Like that's what I see as a clairvoyant, that it literally clouds up the energy field. And so the energy field isn't clean and clear. And so anything that you're engaging in that's fogging up or mucking up the energy field, anything, whatever it is, like even if it's like, eating junk food every day, that's going to have an effect on your energy field. Again, no judgment to anybody who does that, but it's just, it just is what it is. So, if you're taking in chemicals or whatever the habit is that's causing distortion in the energy field, then eventually that does weaken the energy field. So like if someone has never smoked ever and they smoke one cigarette ever, like they smoke one cigarette, they're not going to, it's very unlikely that they're suddenly going to have a whole bunch of demonic attachments because of that one cigarette, right? Or they never drink and then they have like a half a glass of wine. It's not like all of a sudden they're like Velcro to like demons or evil spirits. It's really all about what the substance is, because actually even there are other substances, even like doing an ayahuasca ceremony once, or doing other mind altering substances even once, that is enough to even alter the energy field and for the person to then walk away with tons of hitchhikers. Don't throw tomatoes at me right now. I know ayahuasca is super popular right now. So hear me out when I get to talking about that in just a minute. And it's okay if we agree to disagree on that. But April, thank you for your question. Basically, the softer the substance and the less frequently you do it, then the less effect it will have, and then vice versa. Okay? Okay. But, you know, I will say to April and anyone else out there who smokes, if you're feeling guided to quit, go for it, because it's only going to improve your energy. It's going to improve a lot of things for you. Or if you can reduce it. I have a tickle in my throat, sorry. Especially, you know, if you happen to be someone who has had any issues with psychic protection in the past, I would be doing anything and everything that you can to purify your environment, your body, your energy, and trying to reduce those things that do the opposite, so that you can be as resilient as possible and less vulnerable to that nasty stuff that you've been dealing with. Okay? Ming says, just got a job. Oh, hang on a second, you guys. I got to do a technical thing. Sorry. I don't usually have to do this, but hey, keeping it real. My device is overheating a little bit, so I'm going to turn on the fan. Okay, Ming says, just got a job at a drug and alcohol addiction treatment center. Okay, I haven't even read your question yet, but I'm going to talk for a second and then I'm going to read your question. So if you are if someone is working at a center like that, that is so awesome. I'm so excited that you're doing that work, and it's really important work. And also, you need to be clearing your energy way more than if you have some cushy job somewhere. Okay? So as soon as you get home, you need to be doing a cleansing every day as soon as you get home. It's not because you're afraid or anything, but it's just like smart, right? Like, you really absolutely need to do more cleansing than you would at some other kind of job. So otherwise, I'm not going to say guaranteed, but it's much more likely that you're going to get some hitchhikers eventually, or start to have some negative energy build up over time if you don't do extra cleansing with that kind of job. So absolutely, you definitely need to do extra cleansing, whether it's meditations, taking a shower to clear off your energy when you get home, taking a salt bath, burning frankincense, or any of the real basic daily tools. And then you should pretty much be good. And also make sure that you're grounded, and that you are doing practices to strengthen your energy field. Because if your own energy field is really weak and you're going into an environment like that, then you would have more issues as well. So work on strengthening your energy. Okay, let's read the rest of your question. How do I protect my energy while I'm there? Okay, so before you go in, when you're sitting in your car, you're going to take 3 slow, deep breaths. Focus on like really getting centered and present, rather than all scattered, like I'm rushing to get to work. No, you get yourself really present before you enter the building. There's also a lot of steps, a protocol that I teach in my 12-month online spiritual empowerment academy. That's too much to go into here, but a lot of my students practice that every single day, and sometimes several times a day, to help them with their energy. So I do recommend checking that out on my website, psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. But yeah, so I would say just the quick answer to you would be that to practice daily cleansing when you get home. And then also find techniques for strengthening your energy, whether you work with me in my group program or you find something else. You need to be focusing on strengthening and making your energy more resilient. Yep. How do I protect my energy while I'm there? To keep any entities that come in with the patients from leaving with me. Yeah. Also, what are some ways I can keep my office a safe, tranquil space for patients that has a good vibe? Seeing over a dozen a day. Well, as I was reading that, I saw an image of a Himalayan salt lamp, and I think I'm sure there's a lot of different things that you could do, but that's, since we're on a video and we're doing just quick answers, that was the first thing that I saw. So that's what I would do. It's actually going to make the energy very soothing in there. Yeah, and also, keep the space kind of zen, not too cluttery. Make it feel nice in there with, just things set up in a lovely way. And that's going to help them feel better as well. So that and the Himalayan salt lamp is going to help way more than you realize. Joe says, can you discuss working with a shaman healer where they'd use, say, ayahuasca? I'm a complete teetotaler now that I know about the entity attachment, but have wondered about ayahuasca. Yeah, so actually, I'm going to talk about that next. So that's in my final segment of information here. So I will wait to answer that, because I do have an in-depth answer to that. Oh, see, here's me being a goof again. April is saying, because I was like, what did you mean? I don't hear them. What are you talking about? And April says, your neighbors. Like, sometimes when things, it's like, I didn't know if you were talking about entities or what. So sorry about that. Oh my gosh, this is hilarious. Okay. Thank you for answering that, April. April says, I had a man in the spirit tell me to put my cigarette out or he would not speak to me. Okay, so maybe you had a helpful spirit there. That's good. Although I'm of the opinion that you really don't want any spirits in your energy field, because the only way that they can exist is by drawing energy off of living things. In other words, you or whoever else is around. So maybe he was trying to be helpful for some reason at that point and trying to get you to not smoke, but I still wouldn't consider it a helpful entity. Okay. And Sammy is asking, is smoking marijuana a bad thing? So if you just now joined, I would encourage you, when we're all done, the replay will be posted. And I want you to go back and listen from the beginning, because I do explain that. Okay? So Nina says, and by the way, hi Sammy, it's good to see you. Nina says, from my experience with social work with addicts, yes, there are a lot of entities involved that make some of them act out toward the staff. Yeah, Nina, I really commend you for doing that kind of social work, because it's not easy. It's not easy for the person being in recovery. It's not easy, and for the people supporting them, it's not easy work at all for anybody involved. So, and Sammy says, thank you. Good to see you too. Okay, so now that we've talked about drugs and alcohol, and then also everything that I've said also applies to all other addictions. So we're talking food addiction, sex addiction, porn addiction, exercise addiction, like anything, internet addiction, like anything at all. There's, you name it, there's addictions. It's that compulsive kind of behavior. So even if whatever addiction you're dealing with isn't alcohol or substances, a lot of this still applies. Actually, I would say everything across the board applies as far as dealing with those impulses, the compulsions to engage in the activity, and for there to be one or more entity attachments that are trying to encourage that addictive behavior so that they can experience it as well. So all of that applies to any kind of addictions. Now, instead of doing a separate video on this, since I knew that there would be perhaps questions on ayahuasca and other sacred plant medicines that are, we could think of them as sacred drugs or sacred plant medicines, I was pretty sure there would be at least one question on this, and so I'm going to go ahead and address it now. And so let's dive right in. So in theory, I think it sounds wonderful to be able to use a plant medicine to reach higher states of being. In theory, okay? I'm somebody, so to also give context again, I'm somebody who is very connected with earth energy and with plants, and I've connected with plant energies, plant spirits many times. Not by, no, I should clarify what I was just saying. Not by taking mind-altering ayahuasca or drugs, but by simply sitting with the plant and meditating with it and taking in what messages it has for me. So I have a deep respect and connection with plants and with the medicines, with the teachings that they bring to us. So I acknowledge how important that is. Now, from that context, though, I would say to use extreme caution. Or actually, what I really want to say is don't use them at all. If you're going to, though, if you're just set on doing some kind of sacred plant medicine, please use extreme caution. So it's true. I have met people who have told me that they've gotten some really important insights and they've had what they felt were healing or transformative experiences from their ayahuasca or other plant medicine journey. But to use the language that one of our Facebook members used, I can't remember who it was, so I just intend to acknowledge you. There was some wording about how, yes, we can gain some insights and clarity and even tap into some different realities, but the energy isn't clean. That's the part that I really picked up on from somebody's comment somewhere in our group a week or so ago. The energy is not clean. So my recommendation is to actually do the work. If you're looking to connect with the spirit realm, then do the work. Do the actual real work to develop your intuitive and psychic skills so that you can connect with the spirit realm. Like, I really believe that every single person is born with natural abilities, some more than others, and it's like a muscle that we exercise. Like, I'm way more psychically gifted now than I was when I was young, and I had a natural ability, but I've worked those muscles. I've consciously worked on developing it. So when I say gifted, I don't mean I'm any more special than you are. I just mean I've just exercised more. Like, that's all. And so it takes the work. And I'm going to say something that might be controversial, and I apologize if this pisses anybody off, but I really think that when someone just jumps right into using sacred plant medicines to reach altered states, to get messages, I really think that's the lazy route. And it's dangerous too, which I'm going to explain in a little bit. It's the lazy route. Like, okay, like it's the McDonald's drive-through. Like, okay, we're going to go do an ayahuasca weekend. Okay, and then you're going to get like all this stuff that happens, but it's also not clean energy, and you walk away with potential entity attachments. Or you could actually do the work. So whether it's tapping into the higher, the spiritual realms, or having a personal transformation, a personal breakthrough. There are people who have that kind of experience through using ayahuasca. You could do that, which is also more dangerous. Or you could actually take the time and do the work, do the personal transformation work, the journeying. Go sit on the earth every day for an hour for a couple of years. Like, are you willing to do that work? You can, or you can go do a quickie thing and go to an ayahuasca retreat. Okay, I'm certain this is probably going to offend some people, and I know it, and I'm here to tell you what I really think and to not sugarcoat. So I hope you can honor that, and I honor whatever your opinions are, but I believe that what I'm saying is true. So use it with extreme caution, and ask yourself, is this something that I really need? Or is it also possible that it's something that's trendy in the new age world right now? If it's trendy in the new age world, does that necessarily mean that it's good for you or good for anyone? If it's good for your friend, maybe it was. Does that necessarily mean that it was good for you, that it would be good for you? I'm going to tell you this, as you use your own discernment process, because you have free will. You should acknowledge that you have free will. I'm not telling you what to do. You have free will. So as you go through your discernment process in deciding, whether you're going to take part in ayahuasca or marijuana or whatever, and maybe someone else has a good experience with it, or a so-called good experience with it, use this in your discernment. If you have had any psychic attack issues, spiritual warfare issues in your past, you should not be using mind-altering substances. The end. Period. Because you're already vulnerable. And so it's just making your energy field weaker. And then you can burn all the frankincense and do all the prayers for protection that you want. And then it's like kind of ridiculous, because you're still doing the thing that's making you vulnerable. Like, that's the definition of insanity, right? So, also another problem, as we're talking about ayahuasca, I have yet to meet a ceremonial leader who was fully clairvoyant and could see entities to the point where they could keep their participants safe. I have known lots of people who would lead people in ayahuasca ceremonies and retreats who are not clairvoyant, can't see energies. And that is the equivalent of having someone, of like going on a trip on a bus where the bus driver is blindfolded and maybe even has earplugs in, so they can't see or hear, and you are expecting that they're not going to crash you and cause you major damage. Okay? I can't believe the people who are leading ceremonies, that there's no way they could keep people safe. I'm going to choose to believe, though, that there's got to be a few people on the planet who have the capacity to, and the spiritual power, who are clairvoyant and are spiritually powerful enough that they can discern and keep their participants safe. But I really think 99.99999% of the ayahuasca ceremonial leaders out there are not able to do that. Okay? That's my observation. Okay. And if you are someone who leads ayahuasca ceremonies, then that's your free will to do that, of course. Are you able to see and discern entities? And are you able to see and discern what is false light and what are beneficial beings? Are you 110% positive that you are capable of keeping your participants safe? Okay. And then those people who think that they have had a positive experience, when people tell me that they've had a positive experience with it, I've got, I've got this intuitive sense where I'm like, I think you think that you had a positive experience with it, but you don't realize what really happened, because they don't realize that they walked away from that ceremony with entity hitchhikers. They don't realize that everybody in the ceremony walked away with that issue. And that's the norm. So, now another issue with doing ayahuasca and other ceremonial drugs is the fact that our spiritual world is not the same as it used to be. So, let's talk about that. Okay, so now in the not so distant past, we've started to have electricity, and then after that we've had, well, cell phones, computers. So we have everything from EMFs, electromagnetic frequencies, and radio frequencies. And we have Wi-Fi frequency. Now we have 5G. And all of that has an impact on the environment. And it has a direct impact in the way that the spiritual world interacts with us. It actually creates an environment that makes it very easy for spiritual beings, and especially negative spiritual beings that are hanging out, in the etheric field. It makes it very easy for them to pass into our dimension. This was not the case years and years ago, before we had electricity, before we had radios, before we had Wi-Fi and cell phone towers and all of that. Our environment was different. It was cleaner. There was less of an issue with all of these negative entities. And nowadays, the environment is less safe than it ever was before. And as I was going over my notes, I was writing out notes for this class, and I was thinking about how, long ago, when people were living on the land and they were using substances, plant medicines, to connect with the other realms, the likelihood that really negative, nefarious entities would, like a whole band of hitchhikers would latch on, like that just wasn't as likely back then. I still don't believe it was entirely safe, though. There was still both positive and negative entities even back then. But now it's like there's hoodlums everywhere. Like it's just the spiritual field is just filled with all sorts of negative beings, and a lot of it has to do with our technology and everything that we're filling the airwaves with nowadays. I could do a whole extra video on that, which I probably will in my Psychic Protection Insiders group, because that's the kind of rabbit holes that we jump into in that group. So yeah, it creates all sorts of disturbances and distortions. And also, one thing that I wanted to point out that I did point out in one of our online discussions, but I want to make sure I say it here today, that there's people who will use substances and they'll say, well, I'm using this to connect with higher dimensions. But you got to understand that when you use substances, it allows you to connect with the fifth dimension. And that's not, that's not, quote, higher dimensions. That's like the equivalent of walking down a dark alleyway. The fifth dimension is full of all sorts of negative nasties, as well as negative nasties that are pretending to be light beings. So then you think you've had a connection with like a beneficial ET or ascended master so-and-so or whatever in your DMT trip. And in reality, you now have a huge issue with false light entities attached to you. So, like, it's not higher realms, it's fifth dimension. So remember that, okay? So I could talk more and more about the energetic disturbances with the electrical field, but I think I'll leave that to the Psychic Protection Insiders group, and I will address some of your questions and comments here about this topic of addiction. Sammy says, what's the most effective work that helps connect, and how long it takes, and how is the first contact like? Okay, I apologize, but I'm not sure that I understand your question. Are you asking about how to help connect to your psychic abilities? Is that what you're asking? So go ahead and clarify that for me, and then I'm happy to answer that for you. Joe says, I'm old and gray now. I'll be dead before the work gets me there. Well, guess what? Doing the work, or whatever you want to call it, it takes a lifetime or lifetimes. So, like, I know I'll be working on my stuff for the rest of my life. And, I think we just have to enjoy the journey as well. Joe says, I gotcha, and I'm not considering doing it. It's just always years and years of work. Yeah, and you know what? You have free will. I mean, I'm not the boss of anybody in here. I'm here telling you my honest opinion, unfiltered. But, whatever you choose to do, and if you need help afterwards, I'm here to help you. Okay? But try to make the best choices that you can. Okay. Hi, Lily. Nina says, how do I close energy portals in a haunted house? So, Nina, I'm so happy that you asked that question. It's a really important question. It actually is a bit off topic, and that's actually something that is a more complicated process. And if it was a quickie answer, I would go ahead and give it to you, but it's not. And that's the kind of thing that we go into in depth in the 12-month Spiritual Empowerment Academy. And so if you're interested in that, go to psychicprotectionsanctuary.com, and under the events tab, click on Spiritual Empowerment Academy, and you'll see information on that. Or you can also, every Tuesday, I post a Tuesday Tips with Maya. And I'll give you a brief answer to your question tomorrow's Tuesday. So check out that post tomorrow in the Facebook group, Psychic Protection Sanctuary Facebook group, and we can talk about it then. Sammy, thank you for clarifying. Sammy says, you were talking about better to work hard to connect to the other realm than doing ceremonies. So is meditation the best easy way? Yeah, I wondered if you were talking about either your psychic abilities or connecting with the spirit realm, or all of the above. So yes, meditation is actually a really good way of quieting your mind and getting connected with the spirit world. I think that's really good advice for yourself. So I think that's a really good one for you. Nina says, thank you. Yeah, I'm happy to help. And you guys, and Nina, I'm glad you asked that question, because it has caused me to remember to let everybody know that as of recently, we do have a thread every Tuesday. So if you have random questions, if they're not quite on the topic of what our video is about, you can, you can hop on to that Tuesday thread, ask anything. I don't do personal readings in there, so I won't read your energy and tell you what I see, because that's for a private session. But if you have a question like Nina, that's a perfect question for that thread. So I hope to see you post tomorrow or next Tuesday, whenever you think about it. So let me see. Do we have any final questions? So type fast or forever hold your peace, because I'm going to log off here in just a second. All right, so I'm going to give a quick little blurb of if you would like to work with me more, you can visit my website. Oh, there's a question or a comment. If you'd like to work with me more, there's a lot of resources at my website, psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. I'm very committed to always offering some free things every month, this free Facebook Live being one of them. And we do have a free Facebook Live every month in this Facebook group, Psychic Protection Sanctuary Facebook group. It's the first Monday of every month. And we also have our Tuesday post where you can ask me any questions about psychic protection. We also have the YouTube channel, which is totally free and full of awesome, juicy content. I've been making videos for a few years now, so there's over 100 hours of free content on the Psychic Protection Sanctuary Facebook group. And then on my website, psychicprotectionsanctuary.com, if you'd like to work with me and go deeper, because we really only go so deep in the free content. I mean, that's just the reality. So if you want to go deeper, I invite you to go to my website, psychicprotectionsanctuary.com, and click on Work with Maya, and you'll see all the different options for currently how you can work with me. Okay. Sammy says, thank you. You are amazing, like always. And remember, you promised to keep me in your prayers. Yes, I will still do that. Thank you. Thank you for the shout out, Sammy. Joe says, thank you, Maya. And Ming says, thanks, Maya. Thanks, everybody. I truly appreciate each one of you. It is December 2020. So the year is almost over, thank goodness, and wishing everybody happy holidays, whatever it is that you practice, wishing you a peaceful season. Until next time, bless you.